fuck is going on? Okay, sound test. Okay, I can hear you. Sound testing, 1 2 1 1 2 3. Voice
I can
testing.
hear you too.
You can hear me? Okay.
I don't know about the stream, but I can hear you.
Yes, correct.
In fact, turn on your stream.
Yeah, let me. Keep talking, keep talking, keep talking.
Hello. Seems like I'm captured.
Your voice is captured, right?
It seems like my voice and my piano are captured. It seems like I can hear you and your piano clearly.
Okay, all right.
I think. Play some more?
Hold on, I am adjusting some PDF issues.
Okay, well it's coming through, so there's a little bit of a delay.
Okay. Oh, come on. All right. Okay, seems to work. I also have your Shure. Now, I finally got the mic stand, so it's being hung basically upside down, but trying to poke below the piano. See how it goes.
Ah, great.
Yeah, and I need to make sure that they are on. Yes, they are on. Yes, very good.
Yeah.
Okay, so even if I'm talking here, you can actually still hear me, right? Like I'm actually pretty much away from the voice mic. Am I sounding distant?
Well, I'm only listening to you talk through Discord, so
Yes, and
yes, it's clear.
It's clear. So Discord is through the voice mic. So okay. All right. So I mean the voice mic can still go closer to me, but you can definitely hear that I'm getting closer to the mic, right?
Yes.
Like right now.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let's make sure that was how it is received. Okay. So parents are at Vancouver Airport probably right now. Hopefully there's no broadcast. Hopefully they got headphones.
Yeah.
Then that will be interesting. Okay. So where were we? We were at 27.2. We were about to finish 27.2. Yeah, I think I start to appreciate 27-2 a little more now. As formerly, I held certain level of disdain for 27-2.
Same as me, by the way.
Okay.
I when I was young, I competed with this piece, actually, a number of times, but I never really enjoyed it because I think it was in my head that this was supposed to be some beautiful tune, just a pleasant thing in the realm of Opus 9 Number 2,
Yeah.
right? And it turns out I think this is a much more gritty nocturne.
Yes. Sort of, we need to take away the sort of, what's the word? I guess the impression, right, of a typical Chopin nocturne. But as it turns out, the only typical that people would think about Chopin's nocturne is actually the loner Opus 9 Number 2.
Yeah.
And nothing else that he wrote in this genre had that effect, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, at least you are justified. You are far more justified because you have played the piece, you have taken this on stage, competed or performed. Maybe even against your own will. It seems that it sounds like you did it just for what it is, for what it will do for you, right? For in a competition.
Correct. I never selected this nocturne.
Yeah, that's right. So hi Brenda for listening. Yeah.
But I do choose it now. I do choose to play it now.
Yes. So but totally with a different reason now, right?
Yes.
I mean, you had no reason before. So okay. So now Opus 27 Number 2, it still remains as one of the most popular Chopin nocturne played at competitions, if it is offered as one of the selections. But maybe they were still chosen for the same reason that probably your teacher chose it for you. I don't know. This is a wild speculation. So maybe before we sort of get into the really exciting parts of Opus 27 Number 2, and we're going to certainly preface this again, since we have a one-day hiatus from the discussion. How you mentioned that this work you felt is actually not a beautiful face, basically, right? This is actually a gritty, this is a grind. And we got, maybe this is actually a good time to actually preface everything, which is from where that we finally can truly say that, okay, this is a nocturne that actually has some grit. Certainly not the opening two bars, right? So let me capture.
Yeah. You start right with a very beautiful moment, but
Yes.
It quickly devolves into something more, maybe terrifying.
Yeah. So I'm kind of semi-proud of the fact that last time I should probably draw towards the idea that in the when the duet starts, or you can say that's when the second section starts, if you will, right? If we really want to call it binary or not. I think I commented on the fact that this is the first duet starts in a minor key, and every landing spot seems to be a minor key. Now since we may often associate this work, at least by listening to the beginning, with Opus 9 Number 2, I now want to even go back a little bit to think about what Opus 9 Number 2 is doing at these sort of transitional landing spots when they get into the second parts of the binary form. So for Opus 9 Number 2, I think I at the moment just a large parallel. This is a kind of a stretchy parallel. But I think it's still, let's experiment this. So my point that I'm trying to make is the following. Let's listen to Opus 9 number 2, but let's go into the place where there is what we call development, or the second part of the binary form. 27-2 corresponds to, okay, 2 notes. Okay, so, but where would be the parallel place for the Opus 9 number 2? Let me see. Okay, it is actually this part that develops into new material. So there were some minor moments, but nearly all the landing spots are still major key, are still, let's say, bright, are still colorful, are still, you can say, positive, if you will. So then I guess that probably is the first separation from your usual beautiful tune to something that has some immediate contrast to the, let's say, the opening warmth. I'm not going to dive on this too much. I guess I'm just trying to make a point that Opus 27 number 2 is a bit more special via its contrasting tonality. Would you say that when we get to 27 number 2, when we are at this position, for example, so now I can finally look at the score, not to mention that I still cannot play it. This is a moment that is pretty special to 27-2, but you don't hear any of this in Opus 9 number 2, for example. The only sort of outbursts, if you really have to pick one in Opus 9 number 2, is probably... So it quickly turns, it's like a sad face or surprise face turns all of a sudden still a smiling face again, right? So I guess 27-2 is also kind of, I mean, the grit really start to show. Now, I think I remembered that before we get into the recap, which is basically the binary form being repeated on a second try, Nathan mentioned something important, and it's actually on the page right here. So right after what I just played, we have basically now a transition from maybe a quarrelsome couple into the opening warmth once again. But it's not. But the effect is not immediate. So Nathan, do you still remember the point that you were trying to make regarding this transition section back to the opening?
No, remind me.
Okay, so I think you are calling to attention of the intricate left-hand contours that it's not really a melody that is doing the transitioning work, right? I mean, this sounds kind of awful almost, right? And then you have a melody, right? But before that you can tell that there's a melody, it's just sounds like chromatic passing tones, right? A bunch of them. But so if the right hand is not prominent or it's not saying anything too meaningful, then the attention must be given to the left hand.
Yeah, and I think we liken this to the 2 bars in 27-1, the 2 bars before the middle, the B section, right? It's kind of striking. In fact, it's not even rests in the right hand, right? It's just a single line.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, you're absolutely right, because on the score here, it actually shows, so I'm also going to point to what we're alluding to here, is in Opus 27, number 1, right before we get into the middle section. Now, of course, the two pieces have different forms, but we're making a parallel of basically transition material. In 27, number 1, it's my highlighted score over here. There's only just the left hand being played here. And it sounds nebulous. It sounds mysterious, right? It sounds, don't know where to go. But pay attention to what's written in the right hand. Now, you're saying, wait, there's nothing written. I agree with you. But usually, composers will put rest marks there, right? This is like, what is it? This is in common time, so it should be a full rest, right? There's nothing written there. But there are rests written elsewhere, so Chopin knows what he is doing. I guess this is one part that we didn't quite talk about in Opus 27, number 1. This is to the details now of basically Chopin is saying what is in the 4 here, right? So basically the left hand here is not really just a background that you can just almost sleep in, like whatever comes in the left ear can go out in the right ear, and then you can just go on and listen to the middle exciting development. So, but speaking of still, again, the parallel between that transition in Opus 27, number 1, now in Opus 27, number 2, you have a non-melody in the right hand, right? As if it's not playing. Why don't we hear the left hand? Again, after playing this, I still don't know what the hell is going on. All I can piece out is what the what the chords are, right? I mean, I guess that's one way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, put back
go ahead.
oh, there it is on the score. I was gonna say put back on the score because there's something very curious in the middle of those 3 bars, which is the beaming on the left hand. I still to this day really have no idea what to make of this, but let me play for you how I emphasize these various notes, because I think that it's superficial maybe. I'm not convinced it has musical value to it yet, but listen to what I emphasize. There's a kind of an inner chromatic line here, right? That's a little bit of a hidden chromatic voice that's sort of descending in the middle. And I have to imagine that you need to give some meaning to these eighth notes that is technically held a little longer here in the middle, which, just from an execution perspective is such a pain.
I mean, if you were to think about it, the right hand isn't doing much. So maybe you should give a lot of attention to train your left hand to do what you want to achieve here, right? I mean, you will have the bandwidth to do it. And this is a fantastic find because now this is just by looking at it, right? You're saying that, okay, there is a chromatic inner line. So I should probably mention here is, so to start, for example, it's the every third note, but maybe not all. We just actually, so maybe the next one is actually a better example here. So on the second bar here that I've shown, okay, this is awful. That there's always going to be something that tells me, hey, please correct this. Okay, so something like this. So this is an F that I circled. But notice that the next one, it says da, and then you look at the beam that goes up, it has an F again, but then it goes down to E. Now look in the next measure in the parallel positions, which you're gonna see this note. And then once again, but then E flat. Now, if we play also all together, this first bit, if we just focus on the one that we point out, maybe let's start with the third note in all the left hand, you're gonna see what's actually on the next page. Oh, E flat again.
Right, and importantly, you're anticipating, right, the strong beat, right? You're actually coming ahead of where the strong beats are every time, which Chopin does do quite often. I mean, even just in the measure preceding it, right? So you have right, you jump ahead of the gun a little bit to start start the right hand melody.
Yes.
Right, he does that throughout, very much, having this sort of 16th note matching, the end right before the middle strong beat in the bar, or the first strong beat in the bar. So giving a little bit of like a pickup almost.
Actually,
right?
So I should mention, because what Nathan was just talking about here is this pianissimo section right here. So we are so used to hearing a grouping of 6 in your left hand, just like the opening, right? So I was exaggerating, but I'm just trying to show where the border is. But what Nathan brought up here, this pianissimo part, right, preceding what we were just talking about, it's not really on the downbeat, exact on the, let's say, the start of a group. It jumped the gun. Did we jump the gun earlier? No, in the sense that the left hand didn't change to something that is low, right? That is sort of sitting at the bass note. It's not really doing that. So this could be, this is actually, I think, where I find Chopin's writing representing conversations. And usually conversations is not like a debate where everybody, okay, you speak, and I start timing you, and then, okay, you finish, and the other person speaks. No, if it is a conversation, then there's going to be somebody who jumps the gun and tries to answer some questions, right? Or somebody gets very excited, or maybe somebody got very wronged here, right? After somebody scolds you or something, right? I mean, these are just speculations. So little gestures like this in composition, it shows you something about human connection, basically human nature, right? And I'm not trying to oversell this, but I think you often find certain compositions that are too formulaic, and they all of a sudden lost this kind of humanity. So I think that's a great find. We were just discussing on this transition period, but then the transition period was basically jump-started by this quiet pianissimo sort of it's not really whining or something. Maybe it's whining, right? I mean, Chopin probably whines a little bit, at least internally. But is it already implying from earlier that this part is going to sound a little bit chromatic already? So the preparation from measure 20, so I'm going to mark here. Let's just listen to the left hand, where I place the downbeat. Am I playing this right? So I guess the idea here to sort of see through this, we could even call it, okay, you can say this is not entirely a very meaningful transition, but somehow it achieved its gradual decay. Now, we have heard multiple times in popular music where you hear a descending bass line, right? Say, full step, right? Maybe you hear something like that, right? Okay, but it's descending at the same rate and nothing else in the supporting chord of that bass note is also equally descending. What Chopin is employing here is, sure, I'm going to descend chromatically, but I don't want to I don't want this to happen very predictably. So, okay. Trust me, the things that I played other than the bass notes, they're the same. So overall, the gesture is question, follow-up question, and then what? Look what changed afterwards. Right here. I'm going to play it for you so you can hear the sound. So we start with, and then what? The bass doesn't change. This is a Tristan chord. And then the left hand doesn't change. The bass note doesn't change. And then this is actually the most change because everything is moving. Oops. So Chopin is staggering. He's taking steps down, but he's taking a step down and say maybe he has somebody walking with him. So, okay, then since I move down, I'm not going to walk exactly the next step. I'm going to help you move down. And then I walk down again. I'm going to help you at the same time. This gradual decay, it really cools off from the previous sort of argument or drama, but you don't quite feel the movement because it's doing this very slowly at a slower rate than you were anticipating, which makes this part, in my opinion, meaningful. I think it's meaningful that it's stretched out this way. But for those who compose, you may say, well, Chopin is just running out of room that he says, I need to go from a C and I need to all the way get back to dominant and then back to tonic. And he says he's running out of room, so that's why he's stretching it. Maybe you're right. So I'm not going to argue with that. So this is the way that I see it, as in these are just chords being broken down where something is held and something is moving, just to create a sense of not moving, but truthfully, you're still moving. Illusion. It's an illusion. So now we are back home. We're back into basically the reintroduction. The binary form has now is going to copy itself. Hold on. So, is there really a copy? We, of course, hear this. So I hear people do this certainly all the time in competitions is so I absolutely hated it. Maybe that's just my take. But okay, you go on. I don't want to talk about it. There's actually maybe another place where you do this again, right? No, actually, no. This is the only place where you do it. Sure. Okay. All right. It's a little bit different from before, right? Yeah, that's right. It's a little bit different from before. You highlight it. That's fine.
I think my only problem when people do that is they choose to rubato there excessively. That's my real issue with it. I don't necessarily mind the chromaticism element to it, but it's the rubato in one of the few places that doesn't have a marking for, a writ or a hairpin or anything tempo related.
As in, I don't think. Okay, I'm okay with also noticing chromatism, just like the one that you noticed with, let's say, the transition work, right? So you have a disdain for taking too much time to do it, right? It's like you're preparing something. You're inviting the listener to hear this part, but in my view, I think this part should be played in time, but you have enough training in your hand that you just get to stress it only a tiny bit. It's only like in passing, like you're noticing this. Just almost as I feel about the transition is, am I going to slam every note like very hard, let's say, as if it's a real melody? Well, it's chromatics. It's not a real melody, right? So it will actually almost sound, I'm not going to say the word intelligent, but I think it will sound, you can say thought-provoking in the long run, that you played this effect and you carried it out with some with some reservation, but you still did it, and you didn't try to really open this up and say, hey, here it is. So I think the effect on, for example, on me, if this part is played with some reservation, but it's just enough to make me notice, then I think it's successful. But that's just for me, because I noticed, maybe not other people, right? Maybe other people, you need to really hand it to them, right? Which I think is basically another, this is based on tastes, but I'm going to have a hot take here that I think that's not a great taste, as in really everything needs to be handed to you. Okay, so Nathan, here are my 2 cents about sort of about controversial takes. But so same here, right? Okay, I don't know how to play it well, but okay, you guys can do it well. But we are kind of steering away from the main topic, only because that we have heard this chromatic line being done so much, up to the point of everybody sounded the same over here. Like everybody knows there's something to be done here, and everybody do it the same way. It's just like a slap on my face. Okay, I think I've expressed too much disdain, so maybe let's call on something better. Our previous notice of this binary form return is that now, first of all, speaking of jumping the gun, earlier you had a jumping the gun of what? Of accompaniment that is a little premature, right? It's not exactly on the beat. Same here. Instead, it's the duet. It's actually a thematic material. It's really substantial material. That is, the duet starts a little prematurely, earlier than before, right? Okay, wrong notes, but you get the point. In the sense that now, when the duet starts, every single downbeat is landing on a major key. It was just all minor keys earlier, so it sounded a little dark. It sounded a little unhappy. Okay, so this is a nice turn of a binary form. You shouldn't be expecting binary form to be exactly the same. Cough, cough, opus 9, number 2. But so that's why this is special.
And I think remarkable too that, again, we have sixths here, not thirds, right? Much
yes.
more open feeling, right? Contributes to that elation.
Versus, so I mean, the sixth, you can almost always see six as kind of a local inversion of the third, right? So that's why sixths and thirds are often employed in singing, because they are just inversions of a triad. But here, sixes. Man, you don't hear this earlier. This is just all six work, right? Yeah, I actually cannot imagine how it would sound like here if it is thirds again, right? This is a great point, that it's not only landing on all major keys, it is expanding the space in between the melodic line. Somebody is more elated, right? Maybe the singer, right? Maybe the soprano singer. You still have some interlaced thirds. Shit. Okay, so I'm gonna stop with my attempt here. Okay. For those who read a lot of drama, or have heard some opera, this is usually a trap where you hear something so positive, but only in the middle of a piece, in the development of a piece. And since you are aware of the drama that was done in the previous cycle of the binary form, you might feel there is still a sense of danger, a sense of when is the surprise or where is the surprise. Now, if you don't feel it, great, the surprise will actually catch you. But if you are at the same time, if you anticipate something that is uneasy, it actually makes the drama even more exciting, because you don't know when it's going to come. So Nathan, I'm going to need a lot of rope here. Which part, or maybe even which instance into this second repetition of the binary form that now kind of strikes you as, shit, okay, things are actually going down, or as in things are getting more excited, but it is more than just two people quarreling. That was a very local thing, right? We can just quarrel in a room, that's it, right? Is there a point during this passage, for example, when the duet starts, that you feel, okay, this is actually the turning point of the duet? It starts to become something, probably the most substantial parts of the work.
I think there are a number of places where you could point to for this, but we should notice that this section of a compound binary, I guess.
Yeah.
Are we calling it a compound binary?
Yeah, actually, now you corrected me. I think it's actually called compound binary. Yeah, you're right.
This part encompasses a significant climax in the work. Not the climax, but I think it's a local maximum. So there's obviously that portion of it that's very obviously, ringing out ahead, on top of the rest of what came before.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I actually view it's smaller, but I view this passage as a bit of a turning point. Personally, I don't know if you were thinking the same, but
please go ahead.
So right here. So not only it sounds very subtle, right? But you have the combination of a downward motion and an upward, right? So the two voices are not, they're actually converging in their shape, in my view of the world here. So it's not anymore, you don't have parallel thirds, parallel sixths, right? Where they're all moving kind of in the same direction no matter what you do.
Yes.
Or, one is constant, but one is moving.
Yeah.
right? Here's the first time you actually have a divergence, two truly independent voices, right? Right. So
So now highlight.
I view that as a turning point, because then what happens that after that is just total. It starts to devolve into total chaos, right?
Yeah. And that was actually well played. I think that's sort of the breadth on the piano. Like you're also using a larger range of the keyboard now, right? The bass note never went that low, right? I mean, other than the opening, right? The bass note starting from like right after the highlighted part where you're saying that okay, there is a sort of a there's now two independent voice, or the two voices start to become more independent rather than they're in parallel. And then right after that, you have low basses that is trying to stretch the. I mean, the larger of the span that you play on the piano, the larger the scene is, the larger it's trying to contain.
Yes, but also truly, there is an added emphasis that Chopin specifically writes into the low. He writes a support sound there,
Yeah.
another one there, another one there. Huh? What does this sound like to you? Sounds like a chromatic, right?
Sounds like a chromatic, or just
This time, and this is why I think that transitionary material before, where we sort of hear, a little bit of an inner chromatic line.
Yes.
I think now hearing it on the strong beat with severe emphasis,
Yes.
right, makes us, really need to focus very carefully on the chromatic. So this is why I don't necessarily fault people for being sort of overbearing at the beginning of this second section.
Yeah.
But I do agree that people tend to overdo it.
This chromatic part is now basically singing backwards because this is a climbing, this is an intensifying chromatic bass line. And Chopin not only did that with chromaticism, but also he did it with, what's the word? Diminution? Is it called like that? So as in, instead of elongation, you're compacting.
You mean augmentation, diminution? You mean the basically the space between the changes here, right?
Yes.
It gets shorter and shorter, right? It intensifies the urgency of this, because instead of it happening once every once every two counts, right? It's having once every count.
Yeah. So it's basically the left hand.
Well, actually, it's even faster than that.
Yeah.
So we have a weird subdivision here.
So it's every six, which is what we used to hear, right? And now it's every four. So now this has improved. But I mean, Chopin doesn't go beyond than that, because actually going from 4 to 2, it actually sounds proportionally out of proportion.
Yeah.
Right? So, but maybe that's enough, right? Because if you are thinking that this is actually the climax of the work, then I think you're in big trouble. Now, it does sound exciting. And every place there has sort of this chromatic buildup sounds exciting as well. Yeah, I mean, I guess my last question for this part would be, where would be another piece that we actually find such large emphasis, like very clear indication on the bass note? Now, we know the bass note is important because they stand out from, even if Chopin doesn't write sforzando, we know that it probably has a meaning, right? Because they really stretch, at least visually, right, of the bar here. I'm thinking of an example, but maybe it's not so fit. At the moment, I'm thinking about one of the preludes. It's the A flat major prelude. So towards the end of that piece, man, I wish I have 28 actually pulled up right here, because Opus 28 is actually composed right after or in the same time as this work. Do I have Opus 28 here? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I while you think about that or pull that up, I mean, the other time I can't think of an example right now off the top of my head, but certainly there are going to be lots of instances of that type of bass emphasis on a pedal point, which I think is another Chopin special.
Yes.
Not just a chromatic scale, but maybe the same bass note constantly.
Yes.
Right.
God, let's see.
I'm trying to guess at which prelude you're talking about.
I wasn't clear. Come on, Opus 28. There's only a few Opus 28s that we have here. Yeah, there we go. Well, Opus 28 makes a large concert, so.
Only what, like 40 some minutes?
Oh, I'm talking about the concerts of all Opus 28s.
Oh yeah, it's
that's gonna be a mess.
Well over 2 hours.
That's well over 2 hours. Yes.
Just the ones we want to play. There are many Opus 28s that exist, but not all of them are necessarily worth playing.
That's right. But okay, let me try my best here. So it is you can say that this is it's a feature, at least here. So once my stuff loads here, I will be able to show you which one that I was talking about. Okay, come on. Opus 28, please. Yes.
I mean, while that loads too, I'll just note another pet peeve of mine.
Please.
we always talk about the things we don't like, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people do overextend the welcome of this little mini climax. And in doing so, they forget that the reemergence of the opening theme is not bombastic, right? So they'll play things like, okay, let me get those notes right. Oops. Pretend that was an E flat. But anyway, they'll land on the...
Yes.
They'll land on that opening theme when it really, you have to respect the marking here.
How about retreating gracefully, right? Chopin didn't say, okay, slam the first note or something. He did tell you later that forte, right, on the first variation of the main melodic line, right? But there's no forte at the return. It's just a return. Overplayed. This part overplayed, played almost sometimes as fortissimo here.
And it should actually slow down too, which is something that I haven't gotten used to yet, because I used to ignore the what I assumed was a redundant diminuendo and a closing hairpin mark.
Yeah.
But here is one instance where that's clearly meant to be a retardando, right?
I mean, otherwise, why would Chopin repeat instructions?
Correct.
I mean, why would he do that?
Correct. So it should really die off, and that's particularly meaningful because we had that contraction earlier, right? The four, every 4 beats, right? So now you really have to come back to that pulse.
Yes.
From that idyllic beginning theme.
Yeah. I think this is a great point that I hope more people take into consideration. At least admire the score first, right? And then do what you need to do, but first of all, I think you really need to just admire the score first. So now I have the thing on my screen now. Hopefully you can see it. It is. So Nathan, which one is it now? Oh shit.
Well, it was muted. And here is a pedal point.
Here is a pedal point, but Chopin instructs you very clearly. Sforzando. Now, maybe you can argue, hey, that's not placed exactly where the bass note is, unlike in the nocturne, right? In the nocturne, but I think the gesture is the same, or at least give me an emphasis on the bass note.
Agreed, but also remember in the nocturne, it's not a rest in the right hand.
Yeah, it's not a rest, other than maybe the first instance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so the right hand actually keeps going, right? I mean, Chopin did give you the space for it, right? It's not a rest, but it's not playing. It's not actively playing. So you will hear the differentiation between, okay, you're slamming something deep, right? And then the right hand follows with the wail or whatever, right? And then the momentum almost got carried away because the bass is actually lost, right? Even when the compactification happens, the top now start to take the main theme, right? The octave jump, right? With no diminuendo whatsoever. Okay. Okay, so now we have returned. Now we have returned to the opening theme again. So binary, so A, B again. And in terms of length, I mean, I didn't quite count the sort of the number of measures or something. But I think they almost line up in terms of length, in terms of the size of those binary returns. But I think that's a very minor point. So we are going to move on to finish the piece. Or do we finish the piece? So, as Nathan instructed, do not come back into this diminuendo with fortissimo. Oh God. So this is a lot of interesting part here because this is actually where Chopin created the first interest in the opening is right? And he has this chromatic resolution. So you played the opening two parts on and then now you might be, so this is a true surprise. If you still remember earlier material, I think in a binary form, you will recognize that, hey, this is actually something special. Maybe you cannot put your finger on it, but it's something special, right? And this is particularly interesting, I guess harmonically, if we really have to get there, is so it's on dominant seventh feel now, right? It's on dominant seventh feel. And dominant seventh being placed in a position like this usually just says it either opens up for more development on this theme, or it's a question posed and then we're begging for an answer. Where do we go? Is this where we go? We don't know, right? And Chopin keeps us interested because he stayed on it. Still here. Okay, I need rescue. So, but what is important here is that Chopin stayed on this harmony for a good 4 bars. When something remains static, you could anticipate, okay, so for, let's say, an acquired listener, that the listener will be saying, okay, is something going to change? Because I'm hearing something constant for a long time, other than the flashy Chopinesque, embellishments. But for let's say a newer listener, maybe all the attention is being taken away with all the flashy ornamentation. Hey, that's good too, right? Because Chopin wrote them, so they're meant to sound maybe virtuosic, sound graceful, sound also maybe interesting, right? But either that, your attention is being taken away from either virtuosity or from your anticipation. So whatever that hits afterwards, if there's a change, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it. But do we feel it? So I am resisting playing the Conforza, which is the sort of the darkest part of the work here in terms of paper printing. This part almost reminds me actually of the ending of Opus 9 number 2, right? Oh no, this is Ballade number 1. This part, right? And then he does. Ah, okay, I see. Okay, not bad, I read it. So there is actually also, even in this little piece here, there's actually a sense of chromaticism, right? Chromatism that actually descends a little bit gradually, right? Not trying to, but is this just for show? Is this Conforza part? Is this just for show? I think it's like a showmanship moment, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Which is fair. Right. I mean, which is fine because we have gone through a lot of drama, right? Why don't we have a little bit of fun, right? Yeah. So and then so after sort of showing off, and then you land here, and also just a complaint that in Chopin's time, his piano is actually the action is actually far more responsive than what we have nowadays. So it's easier for him to pull this off, and also his keys are closer to each other. It's a little narrower. So is it easier to hit or harder to hit? Depends on the size of your hand. All the excuses that I'm making for not hitting these notes. So, but I'm not going to skip it. Oh, shit. Okay, I'm going to ruin something very important, so maybe I shouldn't play this. Okay, so Nathan, the invitation is extended to you.
All right. Let's try this. Just the now. This is the third repeat.
This is the third repeat.
It's the second repeat, but it's the third instance of the the opening melody, right?
Yes, exactly, yes.
Well, it was maybe 80%.
Well, I think that's more than 80%. I think everything was hit and everything was meant. So it was a return of the opening material, now with a bit more Chopinesque flashiness, right, with all the showmanship. You do have a little bit of anticipation of saying, okay, well, all of this sounds like about the same as before with some Chopin stuff. You do hear this come back, right?
Yeah.
So these are the same things, right? These are exactly the same things from before.
Yes. Yes. Until you get this very, actually, quite sudden. These parallel sixths come back, but in a very satisfying way. Oops, that's not right. Oh my goodness.
This is muscle memory start to kick in.
Yes, exactly. Oh my goodness. Oh no.
And actually, because earlier you brought up jumping the gun, actually this highest point is also jumping the gun, right? In the sense that it didn't start as we anticipate on every downbeat of the work or every half the measure. It's almost trying to cut through, as in stop talking. And let me emote here, because what would be a parallel position here, right? So earlier, I guess I need to mention measure 17. So that's the same position as we were, right? 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 So this measure 17 is where we would have been if we played on, right? If we had played on at the third repeat of the binary form. Okay, so that so Chopin just said, stop talking. I am, is it a phoenix rebirth or something that something has really need to jump out from here? And I'm no longer listening to a bullshit or something, right? Now, you can definitely paint a better picture than what I just said. But the jumping the gun part, right? Jumping the gun part. So every time that I hear a duet in Chopin's work, I always picture the stronger person is George Sand and the weaker person is Chopin. So if this is George Sand, this is Chopin. Okay, this is George Sand not playing the right notes. So, but then you have a sort of a whimpering response. But then that's actually where Nathan noted that it's jumping the gun a little bit, because Chopin already put pianissimo marking at the point where the gun was jumped. So the inclination of sort of like when you talk to somebody or when you hear me talk, you will eventually discover the way that I speak, where I make pauses, and where I make emphasis, and also maybe where my weakest points of the language. So, just from the way that the two characters talk here, I am putting my finger on this outburst at the end as the inner voice of Chopin. Still him. So this is still him. This is all Chopin. This part, even though it sounds loud, you would say, okay, that's George Sand. No, this part is all Chopin. Because you are not going to get a larger sort of freedom, liberation moment than this from everything that was before. This is where I also call to attention of Chopin's Opus 32, number 1, where I brought a section because we have a George Sand and the Chopin moment where Chopin has shown his timidness before. But, so I was saying this part. Even though this part was played with a lot of intention, with a lot of intensity, that's actually Chopin's inner voice, which he always loves to leap above, leap very high. And then certainly there's some other examples, which I think I'm almost out of time here. So that's a really personal statement. And that, in fact, marks the emotional climax of 27 number 2. So if you have used all your energy developing the previous 2 binary repetitions, then you would have lost the true meaning of this nocturne. Your plan didn't work. Like where does Chopin write so much about sort of delivery? Con forza, sforzando, crescendo, and then appassionato, and accents, and then sforzando again, and then you really have to land. I think I'm adding too many notes. Oh, so just fourth, okay. Yeah, these leap of fourth sounds majestic. Sounds, yeah, it's So that I think that makes a whole lot of difference. So for those who are trying to play this work, who are trying to learn this, maybe this is the part that you should say, okay, I really need to reserve to push for this part. Chopin already helped me with jumping the gun, right? But which means that I shouldn't be expending too much energy earlier building sort of all that drama. You should, but they are not there. And this actually calls for the crucial attention earlier on the point that Nathan made, is right before you return return the second time, which is the last time that you play the binary form, you should really obey the diminuendo. You need to come back to a lower dynamic level, maintain that dynamic level, do your showmanship with ease, but then the moment that when the largest outburst reaches, but then it's not physical, it's emotional. That's an emotional outburst. If you look at Chopin when he is thinking about this, he might be emotionless on the face, but his imagination has gone somewhere else that is taking him that high. So I think that's the main point. But did this piece end, Nathan?
Well, it should be obvious from the page that there's still more to say, right? There is a coda. We get a coda here.
Somehow we get, so is this a formal gesture that we had a large outburst, so we should be diffusing, we should be dissipating slowly, right? If we just end abruptly, then this is a polonaise or something, right? This is it doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense. So I
I
think
mean, how much do you need, right? Um,
just go on. Yeah.
right. We're already in home.
Yeah. So I think if the piece ended this way, now since this is just all of these are just afterthoughts because we know that it ended differently. But suppose it ended this way, I think it will also still pass as a pretty good work. Now maybe I'm projecting because I'm saying that I know the better ending, and I don't want to undermine the fact that it's a bad ending now if played without the part. But I think naturally, maybe you can stretch out the last seven, like how do you call this? Septuplets. You stretch them out a little more to make it a little slower, and then end it, right? And that's it, right? So what is Chopin's technique here? Really, listen to it. Let me trace it out. Another Tristan chord, okay. So I think we heard this before, right? I think we heard this before, just in a different form. And this is actually where Nathan made also the important statement that the transitional material after the first iteration of the binary form, so here, right here, right here, that sort of non-moving, slow, chromatic decrescendo and sort of coming down from all the drama from before. That gesture is being echoed in, well, actually not just echoed, but actually reverted by the middle drama, where we have low notes being sort of chromatic pushing up. And then we had that flashy moment where you show off, and that's a chromatic part. And now in the coda, basically it's the same philosophy, but now used to function as a coda. But the slight difference in the technique is the pedal note. Listen to this. Left hand doesn't change. So there's something constant. but something else is not, right? Something else, the chromatic part is moving. I can guarantee you that there's another instance of this in other nocturnes.
It's not just a pedal point, it's a pedal point on D flat, which is our home key.
Which
Let's
is our
not
home
forget.
key, yes.
Right, the coda meant to, of course, reinforce the tonic where we started, but yet you can still develop those 2 bars or 3 bars of descending chromatic kind of stillness from before.
Yes, absolutely true. So, it is a calling from Opus 27, number 1. That sounded awfully, I'm not going to say similar, because what Chopin did in Opus 27 number 1 is not, so same pedal note, even though C sharp versus D flat, same note, but what Chopin did in the coming down, in the sort of backing off, is actually via diatonicism. He went that way.
And notice the you shied away a little bit, but that inner line almost gets us there, right? So
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
we should pay attention to that in the left hand as well.
Well, I try not to. I didn't do it because I tried to mention that I'm doing. It was the pedal note that was carrying sort of this entire section here. But if I were to play this, I would certainly play the middle voice in the second return. Like something in passing. I'm not trying to smack it on the head. But similar approaches, but with pedal tone, but in Opus 27 number 1, the coda coming down is via diatonicism, where we will highlight, where we most of the time when we play it, we highlight that middle line. Now in Opus 27 number 2 here, it is a chromatic one, because chromatic was a thing somehow. Appears quite often in this work. So chromaticism will leave an impression, and now you revisit it. Now, the right hand sounds very much like those stars that are just being flicking. Well, that's my take. Because I don't think a soprano can sing that high. Well, they can, but not that softly, right? But it is matching, right? Okay, I'm missing. Okay, so I'm getting the message now that I should be ending my stream. But here, let's finish talking about it. How about this? So, it is all chromatics, and it is going, it is contracting, right? It is coming down, it is contracting, even though there is a fixed bass in the left hand, but everything's contracting. Well, it fits the purpose of a coda. Chopin, again, repeats the second part. He repeats this contraction, but he brought it up even more. He brought up the octave, and it starts to sound like a xylophone, right? So Nathan, would you do the honor of just that part, or maybe altogether, just the coda?
Oh, I can give it a try.
Yes, you will have a better try than me right now. one of the most uniform septuplets that had the character of dolcissimo and then had a gradual diminuendo without slowing down too much. The special part about the repetition of the chromatic contraction, what Nathan really highlighted is not the top note that needs to be sparky. It's still the main note in the middle, or whatever the accent that you saw before. It is still that you still need to abide by that. So really, the grace note is actually just play it as a grace note, make a sound, but the main part shouldn't be avoided. But probably the most prominent sort of feature of this coda is not necessarily at the chromatism. We recognized it. It is there. So fine. Maybe in the first stream we actually spoke about it very briefly. But now it's time to return to the subject of this long held pedal. What the hell is this about? 6 bars from measure 66 up to 71. And since Chopin wrote pedal marks everywhere, he clearly wants you to do that. So, what's going on here? The earlier section had such an instance, which is in fact the opening, which is 4 bars. And that's it. You don't see this very often. And not to mention that, because usually you hold down to a pedal is you know that locally the harmony doesn't change too much, so that it's harmonious to keep it that way, so that all the notes have nice sort of overtones and it will sound particularly great. But Chopin stepped down on a pedal here with a bunch of chromatics, even though with a pedal notes, but then a bunch of chromatics. But you do finish the chromatic section. Chopin says, no, keep your, unfortunately I'm stepping with my left foot, but it should be the right foot. Keep your right foot down. Into actually a D flat, really the home key here, with more chromatism embellishment in the right hand. The only other part or Chopin's work that I know of that has this long feature of sort of just not giving a crap about harmony, not giving a crap about, let's say, the convention where you need to clear harmony using the pedal, is actually in the Preludes, number 16, which I'm not going to talk about too much now because we're really out of time. So, Nathan, what are your thoughts? And take us through your planning for the coda.
I think you've captured everything. What you really need to think about in particular for a coda like this is how the piano interacts with the space that you're in.
Hey.
Right? Every piano is different. Every space is different. The way that the sounds resonate and mingle together are going to be different, right? So you have to be hyper aware of what that's going to sound like and adjust accordingly, because it can get very busy.
Yeah.
And you really want a very clear foreground. Right, you want to hear a very clear foreground, even though you have essentially this kind of hidden in the back, right? But you still want to hear this come out very clearly, but not in your face.
No.
Right,
Yeah.
we're not playing this.
No. Yeah.
Right, it has to be very subtle, just enough that it peeks out, right, like the sun just behind a mountain.
So basically not another in-your-face moment, but the pianist himself or herself should be fully at ease here, I mean, certainly try not to get too nervous, because certainly if you miss a note here,
it's very exposed, right? And you don't have much of an opportunity to change your pedal. But this whole thing, right? It's piano, dolcissimo, diminuendo, more diminuendo, collando. Like it really is supposed to eventually completely dissipate,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's as if the apparition is disappearing.
Yeah.
And I would be remiss. I know we are out of time, but I would be remiss not to again point out the way that we end, right, with the bars of left hand soloed, right, and then going back to 27-1, you have very similar. It's just so satisfying to play that, but you can clearly see the parallel.
Yes. The parallel, first of all, in sort of taking a pause before really pulling the last breath to finish the work. Even though the character between 27-1 here, because these are three solid chords, right? In crescendo and then decrescendo and pull back, but then he has some voice leading there, whatever. But these are solid chords that are almost feeling very, what's the word, resoluto, if you will. I mean, that's how I feel when I hear this part. But so if you're saying being resoluto, I guess you're saying that, well, it's personal, right? It's emotional stuff. But I guess at the end of 27-2, you did prepare yourself to end the work, right? It's just almost like it's just the pearls of little sixes, parallel sixes. And you drop them down very carefully, and then they just disappear, as you said, effervesce, right? And they just end gracefully, and middle register, right? It's not like, I mean, can Chopin end without the last two chords? Does he need a conclusion? Because it looks like a very conclusive remark of the last bit, right? Maybe he doesn't, right? You could just end here, like after the septuplets, you just end, right? And then, okay, and then everything just diffuses, right? So this also brings me to maybe a closing question that we can think about, is that maybe Chopin knows that he wants to end this opus. So it is actually a solid ending, not just to Opus 27 number 2, but actually it's an ending to the set. Maybe that's a conception, right? So this is a speculation, but given a gesture here that I felt, he could have just ended the solo work here on just that effervesced top note, right, where you have reached the extreme of your piano. So I guess this is my guess. This is really my sort of educated guess from 27-1 and 27-2. But I think this has been a very meaningful. I mean, for me, I've learned a great deal about a work that I actually have some disdain for. So I hope you did too. I hope you figured out that, okay, 27-2 is not just a pretty face. It's in fact a lot of drama, a lot of drama that are earned. They're not just being shoved at you in your face. They're earned. They're developed. The technique and the difference between 27-1 and 27-2 in terms of composition, sometimes I cannot even believe that they are from the same person, but there are certain parts that guarantees you that it is from the same person. So I think Opus 27 is at the height of, let's say, mid Chopin, right? Well, sorry, not mid Chopin. It's not like he's mid, right? This is modern colloquial usage now. But this is mid-career Chopin, right? 25 years of age, on the height of his emotional and physical development, and I think he's showing here. So now I know that this is getting a little later, 8:30. So I hope that thank you very much for sticking around towards the end. And I know my parents are probably boarding the plane now, so have a safe flight. And hopefully that we're going to have this session every day. So, and the recordings is always up, so you're welcome to check them out. I think too highly of myself that people are going to watch this, but I believe that this is very interesting. So tomorrow we will continue with some work that I haven't thought about. Maybe some of the Schubert impromptus, or maybe I just continue the route with Chopin Nocturnes since I enjoy them so much. Maybe I should just do them. We will have Nathan, of course, back on the channel, but the next time will be the time that we talk about Opus 37 in a time that is very soon. I don't make promises. So I guess my next task will be maybe Opus 62. The two work that I actually play myself. Okay, so thanks very much for